I'm also seeing is when we say Prakriti is a lost game for us, I also find for last few months at least that when we are honest and trying to move in a right direction, I also find things get aligned to help us move in that direction. Like for instance, in fact, watching some of your videos was it looks like a pure luck. I mean, it doesn't look like something I have kept effort to get to that stage. And this happens so often that it looks just magical. Like in some of the sessions, in some of the live sessions, though I couldn't attend lively, the questions that were going in my mind would have got answered. And when I see that very frequently happening, when I see my situations of coming to the camp was not that I really planned off, it happens out of certain interactions, it just looks very magical. And I don't know how to take that. I mean, I just consider it as grace and I just move forward. But sometimes that keeps going. How are these things happening? That kind of question keeps coming in my mind, and I didn't know how to ask this. Many times I was thinking how to ask, but I was not sure how to ask this. Can you just help me how to reconcile this?
I hope you never get an answer to this question. Otherwise, that which is coming to you will stop coming. If you get an answer to a question, then the answer belongs to the same dimension as the question. The question is from the little mind. That which is coming to you is from somewhere else. If you get an answer, the mind will become closed. All it will then get is that which is already inside it. That which is coming from a place that you cannot know of, you cannot comprehend, will then become unavailable to you. Rather, you will become unavailable to it.
So, is it right just not to, look into that thing and just let...
You can wonder about it, but never try to get a definitive answer. Not getting an answer is wonderful in such matters. Coming to an answer and settling down with it is disastrous. It's like you have unraveled the mystical, which is both impossible and highly dangerous. First of all, it cannot happen. And secondly, if you have convinced yourself that it has happened in your case, then the belief would do you a lot of harm. So, just tell yourself, these things happen. It cannot be known how they happen. And it better not be known how they happen. I do not want to bring grace down to the level of ordinary confined knowledge.
And we also spoke about if you want to choose, if you want to really ask for something, we should ask freedom from mind. We just spoke about that, right? So this ask also happens through mind, right? Like, so is it like that intention to even ask that?
It is not an intention. It is the mind's core nature. The mind's core nature is joy. Therefore, when there is suffering, you do not need intention to be free from suffering. Suffering is experienced only when you do not want to suffer. Let's say suffering is agreeable, then would you still call it suffering? If suffering is agreeable, would there be any experience of suffering? Pain will be experienced, suffering won't be there, right? So the very experience of suffering tells you that suffering is not your nature. Otherwise, you wouldn't have suffered. The very instance of suffering tells you of what your nature is. Your nature is to not to suffer at all. And that's why suffering is so dislikable.
And if someone is not really asking for such a thing, how do we help them ask? Or is it something that we can even help them ask? Or?
Present something by way of example. Their nature too is not to suffer. It's just that it is somehow possible to forget one's nature for a while. It is possible to become so conditioned to suffering that you start agreeing to it, rather you start inviting suffering. Then you just have to present an example. You can keep a bird in cage for so long, and since its very birth, that it may kind of forget to fly. So even when you bring it out of the cage, it just sits. It refuses to unfold its wings. Then, in such cases, it helps to keep this bird in the company of free birds. When it sees that there are others who can fly, it is reminded of something. That is the power of satsangati, company. Be in the company of those who live in their nature. They will remind you of something. They will remind you of who you are, what your potential is, what life possibly can be.